This next session is on what I call exponential organizational tools. It's really the subject of my next book called Bold. And it really is a way of how do you crowdsource from around the world everything you could possibly need. So let's begin. What do you need to start your company, to start your next organization, to take your next product out and really make it happen? If I were to create a list of all the things that, as an entrepreneur, I need, well, here it is. I might be looking for business ideas, a logo design, marketing materials, computational resources, a legal assistance, financing, hardware design, software programming, specialized labor, data analysis, product conceptualization, product manufacturing, product marketing, TV commercial creation, product distribution. I mean, this is a list, a partial list of all of the things that crowdsourcing can now provide to you as an entrepreneur of one. Literally, I have seen, felt, heard, I've been amazed by entrepreneurs who've been able to tap in to the global cognitive capability as a single person to come up with their idea, create the marketing material of it, get it financed, distributed, and really start a company that's created wealth for them by simply tapping into the powers that are coming online right now with what I call exponential organizational tools, which are a range of crowdsourced enabled capabilities. Powerful stuff. So we talk about that we're living in a day and age we're going from linear to exponential thinking. Linear companies are going away. They are the dinosaurs. Remember, during the age of extinction, dinosaurs were the big, lumbering, slow-to-move beasts that could not evolve quickly enough, and the furry mammals scurrying around dominated the planet. Linear thinking, dinosaurs, exponential, furry mammals. And exponential technologies we've been talking about here. It's what you learned about the SU Executive Program, where we talked about it a little bit in some of the earlier sessions. And these are the technologies. But coming along with these technologies are a series of organizational tools. We've talked about X Prizes, incentive competitions. We're going to talk about here today are another set of capabilities that you as an individual, so you're a great CEO, you're an investor, you're an entrepreneur, you're a marketing genius, but you know nothing about AI. You know nothing about programming computers. You know that there are literally thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of people out there who are experts in AI and programming computers who would love to work with you. So how do you tap into them so that your genius, the genius that you have, can meet their needs and you them and really create partnerships across the globe? Talk about machine learning competitions, gamification, DIY open source hardware and software. DIY is do-it-yourself. Crowd ideation and creation, micro work, and ultimately crowdfunding. So these are the subjects I'm going to cover now. And I want to give you a taste for this vibrant world where you can ask a question and get it literally answered by people around the planet that you'll never meet, but who have the answer and can deliver it to you literally, some cases, minutes later. At worst, a few weeks later, at a fixed price in a way you could never otherwise afford. It's a magical time. So innovation is a state of mind. We've talked about this. You either believe or you believe you can't, and you're right in either case. And we're moving from linear to exponential thinking. And so this is a means for you as an innovator to think in an exponential fashion. Stop thinking about, oh, I have to go and put an ad in the paper and hire someone and get an office and go and sort of like find, all the old way of doing stuff. There is a new way of creating products and services that is, at least 10 times faster, 10 times cheaper, probably 100-fold in each case. A friend of mine, Bill Joy, he's one of the founders of Sun Microsystem, the chief scientist back then. He's now at Kleiner Perkins. And a very famous quote that I love. He says, no matter who you are, most of the smartest people work for someone else. Just think about that for a second. Even if you're Larry Page with 45,000 employees, you got folks like Ray Kurzweil working for you now, you still, in a planet of 7 billion people, most of the smartest people in the world work for someone other than Google. So I'm going to start with one of the technologies for exponential thinking and crowdsourcing that just blows my mind every time I talk about this. It's called machine learning competitions. And remember, we talked about the fact that data is growing at 59% per year. YouTube went from 48 hours per minute added to YouTube to 72 hours per minute, 8,000 exabytes of data, enough to get you your little DVDs stacked sideways from here to the moon and back 4 times. So if you're creating that much data, are you collecting it? Are you collecting it from your thousands of members? And then what are you doing with that data? That data is gold. And no one knows that better than this man, Rob McEwen. Rob is a good friend. He's one of our Vision Circle members at the X Prize Foundation on my board of trustees, a brilliant man. And unlike me, at least, I don't know about you, unlike me, this man owns gold mines. Up in Northern Ontario, Rob McEwen purchased a number of gold mines in a company called Gold Corp. And here's his mines you can see in the background. And he bought these mines in 1989. And he ended up collecting geological data around, where, the seismic data, information about it. And he collected that data for 9 years. And in 1998, he asked his geologists, the experts inside his company, one simple question: where is the gold in their damn hills? And they gave him an answer not very good for keeping your job. They said, we have no idea. So he had heard about the X Prize. He had just come back from a course at MIT learning about Linux software. And he said, I'm going to try something very risky. Where do gold mine executives keep their geological data? They keep it in their safe, right? They keep it behind the firewall. It's the crown jewels of their organization. And so he literally decided to do something very different than every other gold mining CEO. He asked the question to the world, where can I find the next 6 million ounces of gold in my mines? And he put up a $500,000 prize. And he took all of his data from behind the firewalls, behind the safe, and he put it up on the web. He put it on DVDs. And he mailed it out to anyone who wanted one. In fact, he had 1,400 people who asked for a copy of his data. Probably some were his competition. And of those 1,400 people, 125 looked at his data to answer his question, where can I find the next 6 million ounces of gold? And 125 of these 1,400 people submitted their answers with the background of why. Well, 3 of those teams won. 3 of those teams actually showed him where to find 6 million ounces of gold. But here's the clincher. Those 3 teams, none of them ever came to his mines. 2 of those teams from New Zealand, 1 was from Russia. What did they do? They looked at the data a different way. They looked at the data that his little company of geological experts could not understand. And they showed him where to find 6 million ounces. $1 million for the prize and the operations drove $3 billion of value. How's that for smart thinking? How's that for looking at the data that's lying around in your computers, in your files, in your, on your servers? Talk about mining data for gold. It's the literal example. Let me show you another example. Allstate Corporation, huge insurance company. Founded in 1931, in 2011, $32 billion of revenue, 70,000 employees. Now, what's the business that Allstate is in? Allstate's in the business of knowing how likely you are to crash your car. Because if you're very likely, they want to give you a high premium. If you're very unlikely, they want to capture you. You're a great customer. You pay something, you don't crash. So being able to understand based upon your age, your sex, whether you're married, where you live, what kind of car you drive, your probability of being able to, drive your car safely is a really important question. And they have mounds of data, huge amounts of data that they've collected over time. So what they decided to do, just to try out this data mining stuff, because on board their employee of 70,000 people is a whole department of statisticians, the best in the world. I mean, They're a $32 billion company. They better have great statisticians. And so they went to an organization called Kaggle, which is an affiliate organization, the X Prize. In fact, the president and chief scientist of Kaggle is on the faculty here at Singularity University. You come back for the executive program, you'll meet him. They put up only a $10,000 prize, asking teams. They said to teams, here is a set of data of people, their sex, their car, where they live, all of the basic data. And here's a training set of data. Here's the training set, and here's the results. Here's what actually these people, their risk of actually having an accident was. And here's a test set. We're not going to tell you what the results of this test set. You have to tell us. And so they had 107 teams around the world play with this data and make their predictions of how would they create an AI algorithm that looks at the data and gives the probability based on this data of an accident. In 10 weeks, what happened? In 10 weeks, this competition generated results 340% better than Allstate's best algorithms for predicting accidents for $10,000. Now, I don't know if this impacts you as much as it impacts me, but I'm like, oh my God, this $32 billion company with these best statisticians in the world who should be able to predict this better than anybody puts up a $10,000 competition and improves what they've had as their core business differential. I mean, so, a winning algorithm that produces 340% more accurate predictions for making claims, what's that worth? It's got to be worth billions of dollars. So who are these people? Who are these people who are competing in are they people who hang around and just compete in Kaggle competitions? Or the people who were competing for the Gold Corp competition? You know who they are? They are literally the people who during the day work at Google, during the day work at Apple, Microsoft, Infosys, Tata, whatever it is around the planet. They are people who during the day got paid huge amounts of money. And they go home at night and they want to play. They want to play. They want to prove that they're better than the other guy. This is about that human drive to compete. It's not about the money. Obviously, they're not doing it for the $10,000. They're doing it because I want to show how great I am. And if you can tap into that kind of energy, it's extraordinary. So at a minimum, if you've got data, no matter what industry you're in, what are you doing to mine that data? We good? So this is an exponential organizational tool. Incentive competitions, build 100-mile-per-gallon cars, fly to the moon, fly, all these things. This is about competitions to drive data extraction. So I don't have to actually go and know about AI or about how to program algorithms. I don't have to know who they are. Who are these amazing data scientists? All I have to do is know the right question, be able to provide the data. It's like, here's the rough stuff, not organized. Here's what I want to understand. Go for it. Pretty powerful stuff. This next subject is one that I love. It's the area of gamification. So this is the second exponential organizational tool. The question is, how do you get your problem to be something that people have fun solving for you? How do you, whatever your problem is, whatever it might be, how do you make it fun for people to solve it for you so that they want to solve it for you, so they have a good time solving it for you, so you capture their attention? You have to think about it in the right way. So I want to give you two fun examples that I hope you'll remember. The first is how to clean up a park. Oh God, I'll pay people to go and clean up the garbage. The second was how to make people take the stairs instead of the escalator. I'm going to show you two videos and just think about the genius of this gamification. simple idea of turning cleaning up garbage into fun. Here's the second one. How do you get people to want to take the stairs instead of the escalator? Let's take a look. Yeah, fun stuff, fun stuff. So the genius of taking your challenge and wrapping fun around it. So you heard in the earlier session Ray talk about the ribosome, that little molecular machine that takes messenger RNA as the information and then starts to line up amino acids to make a protein, right? So a sequence of amino acids becomes a protein, and how that protein folds into the three-dimensional structure of a protein determines how that protein is either useful in the body or a poison in the body. And so it has always been a supercomputing problem about how a protein folds. Given an amino acid sequence, how will that protein fold based upon the sort of magnetic and electrical properties of those proteins, the hydrophilic, hydrophobic elements of those proteins? And it always was a supercomputer challenge. I remember when I was in medical school, that was the big idea of how could you possibly predict. If you could predict it, you could help you create medicines and help you prevent disease. A team at University of Washington in Seattle decided that maybe the pattern recognition software of the neocortex, our ability to see three-dimensional structures and maneuver them, might actually be able to predict the folding of protein better than supercomputers. And they created a game called Fold It. And if you've seen my TED Talk, you know, I talk about this a little bit. And here are some three-dimensional folded proteins. And in this game that you play in your computer, you're actually able to manipulate the protein to see where there is more stress or less stress, where the electrostatic tension or pressure is higher or lower, and you fold the protein to minimize the energy stress of that molecule. And it turned out that over time, the folded game attracted hundreds of thousands of users. And it turned out that after a few months of play, in fact, the human 3D pattern recognition of the mind was better than supercomputers at predicting folding patterns. And it got much better. And so a few years into this, the creators of Fold It asked the question, well, just who are these great protein folders? These are people. Where are they? Are they at Caltech? Are they at MIT? Where are they? And so when they looked at who was the best protein folder in the world, it wasn't a Caltech professor or an MIT grad student. It was a woman who was living in Manchester, England, who during the day was an executive secretary at a rehab clinic, and at night was the world's best protein folder. That was the way her mind thought. when you hear her talk in the interview, she goes, well, I like tucking in that part of the molecule because it looks sloppy otherwise. She just thought in the way that this would be a beautiful molecule. And she was the best protein folder. Now, stop and think about the fact that I would have never hired her to be my protein folder, nor, as we spoke in an earlier session, would I have hired the tattoo artist to design literally how to reinvent oil spill cleanup technology. But you don't have to pre-guess. The old linear world is I guess in advance, and I hire that person based on what I think they're going to be. They're an expert, so they've got to be the right person. The new way is you put up the challenge, and you let everybody compete. And if you make it fun, they have fun doing it. Why did she do this? She did this because it was enjoyable for her. And because, by the way, she knew that in playing this game, she would be able to help identify particular proteins that would help protect against AIDS or cancer drugs or so forth. She was helping moving science along. So she had fun, and it was meaningful to society. So if you can create a gamification of your problem, which can do both, that's magical. Make sense? Think about that executive secretary from Manchester, England. Literally, who's the world's best protein folder? Something a supercomputer used to do. Amazing. This is a story from an SU alumnus who gamified the diagnosis of malaria. So this is the way we used to diagnose malaria. A microscope, a stained slide of blood cells, and a counter looking for malaria parasites inside the blood. And it turned out that you'd get the blood draw, you'd stain it, but to get a healthcare worker to actually look at the blood stains and determine whether there was malaria in that blood took 20 to 30 minutes. And the cost of doing that, because malaria is so prevalent in the world, it was huge. And what one of our SU students did was he said, I'm going to turn this idea into a first shooter game. I'm going to take the blood staining work, which is done, take an image of that blood work and put it up online and create a game where I have to shoot the malaria parasites. So I get a random slide up on my screen and I look and shoot the malaria parasites when I see them. Here's the stats. They launched this game in April 2012. In 30 days, they had 8,000 players in 95 countries. Here's the published results. Combining 22 games. So these blood stains were shown to multiple players. Combining 22 games from non-experts achieved an accuracy of greater than 99%. If those same non-experts were given 1 minute of training, combining 13 games produced that same result. So imagine being able to take the cost of diagnosing malaria down to pennies, because it doesn't take an expert's time for 20, 30 minutes. Slide up on the web, thousands of people doing it, result, boom, boom, boom. Gamifying something to save lives. Brilliant. The gentleman's name, Dr. Miguel Oroz. Lillian, where is he from?
Spain.
From Spain. You can go play the game. Another area that I'm passionate about is the whole DIY, do-it-yourself movement. DIY stands for do-it-yourself. It's the notion that because people are so empowered right now, connected by this global web, that you're able to get people to help you solve problems that you don't have the resources to solve. Let me give you my favorite example. This is a friend, one of our members who've lectured on the stage here at Singularity University, Chris Anderson. You may know him as the editor of Wired magazine. He's a writer, not a scientist, not an engineer. He's a writer. And Chris has 5 kids. He calls himself a geek dad. He loves to play with his kids. And one weekend, he basically got a Lego Mindstorm and a remote control airplane. And he went home with his kids and he decided to start to play those games. So on a Saturday, they basically built the Lego Mindstorm. And after a few minutes, his kids were bored. They said, Dad, where's the lasers? Where's the photon torpedoes? This is boring. They're not seeing what they're seeing on TV. Gave up that. Next day, he went out with his RC airplane, like many of us have done, and how I've done, flew the airplane, found the first tree in the field and smacked into it. End of the day. And after that, Chris was home thinking about this, and he said, I wonder whether, the accelerators and the sensors in the Lego Mindstorm could be used to fly the remote control airplane. Could we turn this into an autonomous vehicle? Could we turn it into an airplane that flies itself so it can avoid the trees and do all of that stuff? The challenge is he was not an engineer to do that. So what he decided to do instead was to ask the crowd, something that you're empowered to do as well. So what he did was he created a website, and he said, hey, is anybody out there interested in building autonomous drones with me? Anybody else want to do this? Here's my idea. I want to build low-cost autonomous drones. I'd love to make things that fly by themselves and fly through the air and have sensors, and you can program them and do that. I don't know how to do it. You want to join me? Let's get a group together to do it. Over time, he got 17,000 people who enjoyed that same vision. And he created a community. Now, he had skills himself. He was a writer. He could code web. He could, he had a vision. He could reach people. Each of you have a skill of your own. It doesn't matter what it is. You have the passion to connect people to you. And those 17,000 people included people at Google, at Wired, at Apple, at other places that he could never afford to hire. They weren't doing this for money. They were doing this because they had a common passion with him. I want to build an autonomous vehicle. And they set a goal. What was their goal? This vehicle is called the Raven. It's an autonomous airplane used by the military. It's built by a company called AeroVironment in California. A great company. I knew their visionary founder. And they sell this. The airplane itself is about $35,000. The full system is $350,000. It's the cheapest UAV that the military can buy. And this DIY, this do-it-yourself community of 17,000 novices, friends, decided that they were going to design one of these things, and their audacious goal was, could they do it for 1%? Could they meet 80% of the specifications of this vehicle for $350, 1% of the cost? And they did. And they open sourced the software, everybody contributing to the software, the hardware, and so forth. And the quadcopter is able to meet 80% of the specifications of this vehicle. It's a different design. They didn't copy it. They just built something. And they have airplane-related versions of it. But literally for free, this vision that Chris had was manifested by lots of people contributing what they had to that piece of the puzzle. And so you can go online to DIY drones, if it's .org or .com, and download the hardware and software for free. It's open source. Or what he did, because ultimately he demonetized the value of this drone, right? We talked about in the previous session demonetization. Took down the value by 99%. Put 99% of the money back in your pocket. In fact, you couldn't buy one of these before. It was not allowed. It was a military, device, controlled by arms munition laws. But what he ended up doing was putting that money back in your pocket. But if you want to buy it, Chris has a company that mass manufactures it, and you can pay him $350 and he'll produce it for you. Or you can do it yourself for free. New economy, new way of thinking of how do you crowdsource the genius to help you make your dreams come true. What do you want? There are companies that are producing cars this way, full automobile designs. Communities design it, they build it, extraordinary stuff. There's nothing you can't do this way. Are you using it? You should be. Here's the next subject, crowdsourced product development. This is a friend of mine, Ben Kaufman. He is the founder of Quirky. But I want to tell you his story. So he was in high school, and he calls himself one of the worst high school students there was. He was lazy. He wasn't motivated. And in fact, when the iPod Shuffle first came out, here's the iPod Shuffle. It used to have a lanyard go around your neck, and then you'd plug the microphone in to go into your ears. And he used to wear this during class, and his teachers would see him and throw him out. So he decided, he went home one day and decided instead he was going to create a device that hid the earphone jacks in the lanyard. So he went home, and out of ribbon and tinfoil, he prototyped this device, and he ended up liking what he created, and he pitched his parents, who, get this, mortgaged their home for $180,000 and funded him to go to China to actually manufacture this device. And straight out of high school, flew to China and started a company called Mophie. You might know Mophie. It was a very successful Apple related company, product company, named after his two dogs, Molly and Fifi or something. That's where the name came from. And but when he got to China, he realized that having the money and manufacturing it wasn't enough. You know, and I don't know how any of you have tried to produce a mass product product. You don't have to have the money to do it. You have to find a manufacturer, a designer first, and a manufacturer. And then you have to worry about marketing it and productizing it and putting it for sale and distribution. It's a whole long list of things. And so what Ben figured out was that lots of people have ideas, great ideas, but there's a huge boundary to making it into Target. So he created a company called Quirky. They have 285,000 members. It was $10 to submit idea. It's now free. What happens is you can submit your idea for a consumer product. And they get, literally, they narrow the hundreds of the ideas they get every week down to 25 products that get examined every Thursday evening in an open online session with all of their members. They look at the products that came in, and they actually vote and narrow them down. And what they do is they narrow it down to 25 products every week that they then will choose 2 to 5 of them that they as a company will help take to production and distribution and marketing. And all of the people who are their community who contribute to the idea, like it really should be smoother, it really should be bigger, it should have this kind of an interface, everyone who contributes an idea gets part of the ownership share. So this really is the crowd creating the products that they want to buy. And the average final product has 1,200 owners. And Quirky takes them all the way through to the production. In fact, they are literally a new way of creating, creating, manufacturing, distributing, and selling a product. They literally are going to be displacing a lot of the big manufacturing giants out there. A brilliant idea. Taking off like wildfire. Just got something like $80 million of Series B funding. Another subject, on-demand workforces. So I talked about the fact that today, the old linear company, scale used to be your advantage. Having 140, 240, 300,000 employees. You are an army, you could do things, but oh my God, think about the dinosaurs in the age of extinction where weight and size was your encumbrance, that you couldn't move fast enough. If you have that many employees and you've invested hundreds of millions in facilities and products, and then the market changes, oh my God, what do? Do you have to re-educate 100,000 employees? Do you let them go? What do you do with the huge equipment that you've just invested in? What if instead I could tell you that you can hire whatever employees you need for a day, for a week, for a minute, whatever it is you possibly need. It's called on-demand workforce. So this is another SU graduate. He came to our last executive program. He's the CEO of Freelancer.com. Freelancer is a community of 6.7 million people online in 234 countries. I don't know there was 234 countries on this planet. I think it's every country has got freelancer individuals. And they have 4 million projects that's paying out $200 million a year. And what you do is you go to Freelancer and you say, I need these kinds of services. I need a design. I need an architect. I need a quantum physicist. They have quantum physicists on board, molecular biologists, whatever you need. And you say, this is my project. bid on it. So you describe what you want, and they will actually bid in a competitive fashion and bid themselves down, and you can buy from them online stuff that you would spend hundreds of fold more here in the United States, because the people bidding on this in China and India and parts of the developing world who are as brilliant, for them, $100 is, a week's pay. Now, you're taking advantage of the arbitrage between, the standards of living, but it's extraordinarily valuable for these individuals to be able to get that kind of work. And do not think for a second that people in China, India, other parts of the world are not as brilliant as we have in, US or Europe. So with Freelancer, they have like 600 categories of work that you can buy on demand. And Freelancer did something very interesting. Now, the average work product there is like a $200 job. That's the average. I wanted a PowerPoint presentation, re-engineer it, and I put it up, and I had within half an hour 20 bids. And I had a bid from a professional agency in the United States for $4,000. The bids coming in were $50, $100, $200 was a high, I think. And what these guys did, they said, I wonder what people would do for $25,000. Huge amount. And so they said, they ran a competition to say, we want to see, the winner will be the company that exposes the Freelancer logo to the most people around. So they ran a competition for marketing their logo. What I'm going to show you here is a compilation of what people did around the world. You're going to see giant balloons, giant banners, stadium filled with people. Let's take a look.
Are you ready? You ready to win $25,000? Well, listen up, because the Freelancer.com Expose Our Logo contest is back.
Expose Our Logo contest.
Yo, so if I had a little more time, I could work on my $1 million idea, make $1 million online. And if I had a little more cash, I could get my team together, make a product, get to market real fast. And if I had a little bit of help, I could bootstrap, take a new path, make a little bit of wealth. And if I had a little bigger crew, I could take on bigger deals. Ain't no telling the kind of stuff I could do. I could migrate my projects off of .NET, start fresh with the process, model objects. I could rewrite the sales pitch, strategize plans, market research online, analyze brands. I could lower my costs, but increase my sales. Hire talent worldwide with the specialized skills. I can put the puzzle pieces together to make a move. With Freelancer.com, no limit what I can do.
You get the idea. I mean, your power of your dollar for the crowd to respond and have fun and do. I mean, $25,000. I could design a logo for that, or I could get a ad on something. I mean, crazy power and leverage that you're leaving on the floor but not using this stuff. Another organization is called Crowdflower. They call themselves the world's largest workforce. They're focused on micro work, small pieces of work that people can do on their cell phones, when they're on the bus. I was going to say while they're driving, no. But I'll give you an example. So this is Sarah Fortune. She's a professor at Harvard working on tuberculosis. And she wanted to look for survivor cells, like rays equivalent to his cancer stem cells. So when you use tuberculosis drugs, a certain number of tuberculosis cells will survive. And she had literally tens if not hundreds of thousands of images that she needed to have looked at, looking for the survivor cells. And when she looked at what her options were, she said, it would either take me hiring 100 graduate students for a year to analyze all these images, or I'll have to build a special AI recognition system. And she got a quote from her friend at MIT for 3 years. Or she put those images up on the web and made it a Crowdflower competition. Basically, she would pay, like 5 cents per analyzed image. And literally, she had this workforce get her work done in a week. So it's a tool. How can you literally leverage the crowd to help you do whatever you need to do? You guys getting the sense of the power the crowd has to help you look at your data, help you solve your problems, help you market your services? Crowd creation. So I don't know if any of you ever use 99 Designs, I use it all the time. They have 121 designs per contest. You know, literally 179,000 contests rewarded to date. Let me show you a short video of what this is. So this is a site you go to if you want a logo, you want a shirt, you want a design. You describe what you want. And then the crowd, and you say, I'll pay $500 for this, or $200. And the crowd from around the world responds. Looks like this.
Need a new logo, website, t-shirt, or print design? Go to 99 Designs, the #1 marketplace for crowdsourced graphic design.
The next area I want to talk about is advertising. You know, advertising, how we get our message out once we have our product and our service is really powerful. You know, how do you create television ads, web ads? You know, the typical Madison Avenue way of doing this, the approach, is basically, you know, you're going to spend $250,000 to millions of dollars hiring a top ad agency. And what are they going to do? Well, they're going to take 6 months to a year, and at the end of this process, you're going to end up with a finished product, a TV ad. And the biggest companies do this over and over and over again. It's the standard way, and that's why, by the way, Madison Avenue advertising companies are on Madison Avenue, like really high rent district. You got to understand that they make a lot of money doing this. I want to show you an alternate way. And by the way, distributing that ad they created, that's extra. What if, instead, you could reinvent how you advertise? There is a company that I love. It's called Tongle, based in LA. And what they realized is that there are literally 45,000 garage studios in LA. What's a garage studio? It's a guy with a camera and an Apple computer. Because today, with 1080p, with the kind of capability, you can literally produce the best quality out there. So what happened? They run $10,000 to $100,000 competitions to their 45,000 garage studios. Here's an example. You guys know duct tape, right? Duct tape's made by a company called SureTech brand. And duct tape, it's an old brand, and SureTech wanted to refresh the duct tape brand. So they turned to Tongle, and they offered up a $10,000 prize. Not very much money. And this is the way it works. The first step is Tongle puts out to their community asking for ideas. What would an advertisement for a refresh on the duct tape brand look like? And they ask for literally a tweet worth of an idea, 140-character idea. And they get 500 ideas that came in. 500 ideas came in from the community of what a duct tape advertisement would look like. They narrowed it down to 5 core ideas. Those 5 winners won some portion, $1,000, $2,000 split among them for the idea. And those 5 ideas were selected by SureTech. Yeah, that sounds like a cool idea, with advisement from Tongle. What happened next was that those 5 ideas went out to all the garage bands, and they said, create a video on one of these ideas. The garage bands created 60 videos, not one. They got 60 final products. I want to show you what the winning design was. By the way, the winning design got, you know, the race to the 8K. Thinktron.
I told you to clean the garage, not play with duct tape.
Ah! Yes!
Pretty wild, huh? So this is what you get for literally one of 60 different designs, and this got 2.5 million views virally. They couldn't have paid millions of dollars to drive that before. And it was done in weeks. Not months or years. Amazing stuff. How do you tap into the creative genius? People want to have fun with you. Pretty amazing, huh? Final subject I'm going to talk about here is crowdfunding. No bucks, no Buck Rogers. You might have heard about the crowdfunding phenomenon that's growing. It's really the ability of millions of people, if not hundreds of millions of people around the world, to really invest in your ideas if you can passionately express it to them. So at the end of 2012, here are the stats. There were 530 crowdfunding platforms. You may know of Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Rocket Hub, Kiva. And in 2012, $2.8 billion was made accessible through crowdfunding. $2.8 billion. By the end of 2015, that will grow to $15 billion. This is real money. A lot of real money. And if you're ignoring it, you shouldn't be. This is how you can potentially fund your next idea, your next product, your book, your website, your movie, your technology, whatever it is. So I want to share with you the story of a good friend who's been here to lecture at SU, Eric Michigovsky. He is the founder of a company called Pebble Watch. And Eric was a young entrepreneur who come up with the idea that, what if I could connect my cell phone to my watch? And so that on the watch surface, I got my emails, my tweets, whatever the case might be, and I don't have to actually pull out my cell phone all the time. And he developed this originally for the BlackBerry. And he learned about how it, what it worked, and he had some customers. And then he said, I have to port this obviously to the iPhone iOS and to Android. And he had raised money locally here in Silicon Valley, about $300,000 to do his first watch. And what happened was, at the end of the day, when he learned from his experience that, BlackBerry was going downhill and he needed to actually get the money now to port it over, he went out to his investors again. And it turned out his investors said, nope, not going to back you, sorry, not excited about it. And he went to all of his investors who invested in the first round, his first seed round, they all turned him down. And he had 2 months of money left. 2 months of money. He needed $200,000 to port it over to iOS and to Android. And so he literally was at the end of his rope. And he decided he was going to do a Kickstarter campaign and ask for $200,000 to try and fund the development of his Pebble Watch. Well, his offer was, if you back my Pebble Watch, and the levels were $100, $200, all the way up to $10,000, the upper limit, you will get, 1 watch, 2 watches, 10 watches, a distribution of watches that you can sell to other people. And this was literally his last hurrah. He was out of business if this didn't work. He launched the Kickstarter campaign. It ran for 34 days. He closed $200,000 in the first 2 hours. At the end of his campaign, he had gotten 68,929 backers to back him with $10 million. He had a new problem. I don't manufacture so much. He was literally on the next plane to China again, following Ben Kaufman at Quirky's footsteps. But what you're seeing here is literally, if you have something that you think is useful and exciting to the public that they would want to buy, this is a way for you to get advanced market commitments and the capital to actually manufacture that technology and bring it to market. And by the way, you have to know that every venture capitalist who had said no to him, who were like, can I invest now, please? So what's happening is this whole crowdfunding mechanism is becoming a mechanism to sort of demonstrate whether the dog is going to eat the dog food. Because the success rate for crowd-funded products and services is much higher. Because you know that your consumer is going to want to buy it. How very cool is that? Separate subject, but related. I want to share with you a big idea called the sharing economy. So the sharing economy is one that's coming online right now, where it's a future where we can get anything you need, anytime, anywhere, at a fixed cost, at a desired quality. So TaskRabbit is a crowdsourced ability. I need someone to clean my garage, and I'll pay $10. Put it up online, People locally who have got time, accept the $10 bid, come and clean your garage. Airbnb. Do you know what Airbnb is? It's a company where literally if you have an extra couch, which is where it started, or an extra bedroom, or an extra cottage house, or a vacation house, you can put it up online and people can buy it for an hour, an evening, a month, a week, whatever it is. It's a sharing economy. I'm going to share my excess capacity with you. This fallow asset that is not making money for me becomes a mechanism that I can make money. GetAround is a company I'm very proud of that came out of the Singularity University 2009 Graduate Studies program. And this is a company that realized that when those autonomous cars come online, remember what we saw Google's autonomous car? No one's going to have to own a car. What you want to have at that day and age is literally have a app on your phone that you can call and say, I need a Ferrari for the next hour. And a Ferrari shows up, or a Tesla. Or I need, an 8-passenger SUV, and it shows up. And you literally buy whatever you need at the moment you need it. That's the future transportation, on-demand transportation of the quality, the flavor. And if I need it like in 5 minutes, I'll pay the rate they want. If I need it anytime, well, then I'll pay a lower rate because I'm not on demand. So what the guys at GetAround figured out was that all of your cars, every single one of us who own a car, is fallow 22 out of 24 hours. I use my car for probably an hour a day. The other 23 hours of the day, it's sitting there doing nothing. They said, what if you can turn that fallow asset into a revenue stream? So they created a $100 module that you can install on any car. And that $100 module will allow you with an iPhone for me to unlock your car, start your car. And so when I put that module into I just ordered a Tesla S. When I put in my Tesla S, I can say, hey, I'm going to rent it out at $100 an hour. It's located right here. Anybody who meets this minimum spec of accident rate or whatever it is can rent my car. And so when it's not there, it might be rented 3 or 4 times during the day, and I'm making money while a car is not, otherwise sitting in my garage. It's the sharing economy as well. And the thing that I find absolutely cool is this notion. I was thinking about this. I'm walking down the street in San Francisco. I need a car. I can download a car. I can download the GetAround software on my phone, look and say, aha, there's a car down the block. Go, unlock the car, and jump in. I've downloaded onto my phone the ability to have a car instantly. How cool is that? As a vision of the future, of where we're going, of instant access for any kind of... Who would ever thought that a car would become an information technology in that way? I want you to get these ideas. So the last slide before I get away to key learnings here is a notion. The crowd is an interim step until we get AI. The crowd is an interim step on the way to artificial intelligence. You see, in the future, I want you to imagine when AI is fully here and fully powerful, you're going to go to the AI and say, design me a logo, build me a spaceship, do whatever the case, right? Because if an AI is really as smart as we believe they will become and have access to these resources, I'm going to be asking the AI to do these things for me. But in the interim, until the AI is there, I'm asking the crowd. So all the crowd-related things that we have, say for perhaps crowdfunding, though the AI might have money in the bank, they might back me, ultimately will get transitioned to AI. So one slide of takeaways. Anything you need for your venture can be found from the crowd. If you're an entrepreneur of one, you can design your product, fund your product, market your product, manufacture, distribute your product using services from the crowd. There is a world of cognitive genius out there that you can tap into and you don't have to hire. People are wired to compete and to contribute. If you can have them compete and give them the significance to contribute, you can get them to do extraordinary things for you. So my questions for you. What are you paying for today that you could crowdsource? Probably a lot. you're probably leaving hundreds of thousands, not millions of dollars on the table that could be in your pocket. How could you gamify your biggest problems? Because I think most any problem could be gamified. And how can you benefit from this sharing economy? What do you have as fallow assets that you could share? Or how could you go get the things you need from the sharing economy? So I will leave you with that. The implications of exponential technology is going to change every aspect of our lives, our business, and our futures. Thank you. Impact. Folks, any...
Hello, my name is Sandra Rice, and I'm in construction. I'm from Buffalo, New York, and I actually, first of all, I want to say thank you, Peter and Ray, for this session, for this 2 days of pouring yourself out and giving yourselves to us. Your challenges, your contributions, your failures/successes, but really going through those many, many times and standing here in a place for us as entrepreneurs to do the same thing and make sure that we have, big lives. I came here because of Dan and Babs, because of the, enormous respect and trust that I have. I'm in construction, so I didn't know why I was coming, except Dan and Babs said, you should come. And yesterday, I just want to say, something great happened. The fun came back. The spark came back. I've been in business almost 17 years, and I do well, love what I do, but I didn't have that spark. And you talking about fun, the different opportunities of, freelancer, and it's just bringing back for me a whole new level of creativity and a whole new way to change the game, and really an unfair advantage, as we would say in Strategic Coach. So I just wanted to say thank you, because that is, to me, immeasurable, bringing the fun back to this entrepreneur. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not so sure, Norman Hallett, the disciplinedtrader.com, and I'm not so sure my comment is different from Sandra, but I look at it as there's an energy and an excitement about what you got to be excited, as we all know. I started primarily I'm an internet marketer, and nobody has ever understood what I do. Try to explain it to them, but they don't quite understand what the internet and how you can actually do business on the internet. Take it back 10 years ago, and I'm always, anytime I sit next to somebody in an airplane, by the time I land, I've already convinced them they really should get out an information product of some sort and get going. And I used to be amazed at how you could go onto Elance and here and there and build a product and start selling it within 90 days. Well, you've just described something that really can be done within a week, within literal days. I mean, an idea, funding it, which is something that I've kind of known about in a cloudy way. You've refined that for me. And again, like Sandra, the inspiration that I'm on the right track, that I'm at the crest of the wave, that I'm leading the pack, and that I can do more good, What's that?
What's that worth for you?
An immense amount. And the whole Dan 10X thing, that's really just another expression of riding that wave and condensing the time frames and doing good, changing things in a better way in a faster period of time. And so, very, very exciting.
Thank you. Thank you, Howard. Dan, we have to go to 10 to the X instead of just 10X. Yeah. Catherine?
I read Abundance, obviously, before I came here probably a few times, and I read about Chris Anderson, and it was just something about the way you told his story today that made it strike me in a completely different way, in a way that I realized this is the answer to a question, or actually a belief that I've had for a long time, which is that all the pieces of the puzzle actually exist already. And I don't know how you feel about that, but I believe that if you go down to a minute enough level, people have all the answers, they just don't know how to put them together. And I've seen this happen enough in circumstances where people didn't even realize that a solution they had was actually the solution to different kinds of problems than the ones they'd been applying it to, and then you connect two people together. And we see this all the time when we see entrepreneurs connect in the program, because they know different things, they don't realize that they can help someone else. And when you said that, when you talked about 1,700 people getting together and all contributing their piece of the puzzle, I realized that actually that technology of accessing the crowd is possibly the answer to this. And so really the most important thing to know is not even so much, I mean, if a writer can be the force behind creating drones, then anybody can solve any problem that they can conceive of. What the most important piece of knowledge is actually how to access the crowd to answer the question, how to construct the question, I guess, and how to access the crowd. Yeah. And so I'm so happy that you're writing a book about this, because I think, I missed it in abundance only because there's so much in that book. And so to zero in on that incredibly important capability that people really need, that they can access right now. I mean, even if it's only a gateway to AI, there's a lot of years and a lot of problems that we could solve just if more people took this on as a really basic capability. If we taught our kids this, if we, if every entrepreneur understood how to do this, it would make such a huge difference.
Thank you.
And there's so much latent capability in the world.
There is a huge amount.
Yeah.
Ray, do you want to make any closing statement on this subject area?
Well, on the power of crowds, we've had a continual acceleration of communication technologies, which started with our ability to talk, which might not seem like a technology, but that was our first invention, and that enabled us to pool ideas and harness the wisdom of crowds. And our technologies have gotten more and more sophisticated. We figured out a way then to actually write down what our thoughts with written language, and then we created technologies that could store written language and then search through it. And we now have very sophisticated technologies that can pool ideas and solve problems with crowds and make a crowd far more intelligent and wise than the most brilliant individuals in that crowd. And that's the essence of democracy. That's why democracy is a good system, because it seeks to benefit from the wisdom of crowds, that inherently even a benign dictatorship that might have wise people in charge is not going to be as good as a really democratic system that allows for freedom of thought. So part of it, our democratic ideals, is our attributes like freedom of speech and so on, so people are free to share their ideas. And we now have very direct technologies to do that, and we're seeing problems get solved that could never be solved before, like mathematical problems and medical problems. It's very exciting to actually take a group of patients who have a disease. They have all the motivation in the world to solve that disease, and they have the skills. Many of them will actually have specific medical knowledge, but across that group, they've got every possible skill, and some of these are very large groups, and we have now means of really harnessing the wisdom of crowds to attack that problem. And it's very encouraging to me that that is what I see predominantly coming out of the mass of social communication that we have, as opposed to the wisdom of lynch mobs, which is what people have been concerned about. And there's been a whole spate of books recently and intellectual discussion that we're seeing that, like online bullying and so on. Technology is always a double-edged sword. We do see some evidence of the wisdom of lynch mobs when people get together. But I think the wisdom of crowds is trumping that. And that's going to be one of the forces that solves the grand challenges of humanity.
Thank you, Ray.